Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we're going to be interviewing a very special guest, Kyle from B3 Bets. He's a professional bettor, so we're going to be breaking down a ton of knowledge for you guys, things that are going to help you along the way. Make sure you follow us at AstroLockz on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter at AstroLockz Daily. If you'd like to subscribe to our free picks or our VIP group, we're going to put a link for you for that below.
I'm ready to mess up the intro like 6 times. Welcome back to what's our podcast called again?
Zero Gravity.
Like dead ass is how it goes every time. Zero Gravity.
You gotta exercise that one.
We're in the cockpit. You know, like the intro.
Welcome to the episode of The Cockpit.
So, without further ado, guys, I'm going to open it up to Kyle here.
Sure. So, obviously appreciate you having me on your podcast, Michael.
Absolutely.
Love that you guys came out to, bring me on board. So first and foremost, thank you for that. But yeah, as Michael said, obviously we want to kind of just talk about the industry as a whole. We don't want to depict apart individual names. That's not what we're trying to do here is, trash talk anybody's business. Obviously we, both respect everyone's hustles, but at the same time, we are in a little bit of a sketchy industry that doesn't need to be so sketchy, but there's so many guys on Instagram or social media in general that think they're handicappers and want to sell their picks, but in reality they're nothing but your average Joe making picks out of their mom's basement and need your sales to cover your losses. So one thing I liked about when Michael and I became friends is he was just as legit and transparent as I was, right? And that's kind of one thing that I pride my business off of is that, being able to show every single win or loss, posting the losing tickets, not taking minus 250 favorites and selling that out as my, mega whack or mega whale.
Megalodon whale player of the year, 100 units.
Yeah, 100 star, can't lose, max bet. That's just ridiculous. So, those are a couple of things, no matter what service you look for, but it's just something to keep in mind when you're betting out cappers is pay attention to the VIG on the games associated with the games that they're, sending out, right?
Yeah.
Obviously somebody that's consistently sending you out minus 250s, minus 200s, minus 170s, you clearly don't need to pay them to make those picks, right?
And I guess to clear it up for some people that are wondering, like, why shouldn't you bet those minus 250s, those minus 200s, those easy wins that people like to call it? Why is that not profitable long term? If you want to just explain that to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, you just do the math on it, right? I mean, when you're betting, a standard VIG of minus 110 or you're taking plus money dogs, you can afford to, lose one. Now, let's face the reality here. No one is going to average in their lifetime a 75% win rate, right? You do this for 20, 30 years. I mean, it's just physically impossible. So
it's tough to do that for a month.
Right.
I mean, if you have a 75% month, you're loving life.
That's what I'm saying.
Especially if you're taking minus 110 to plus money, good value picks. I mean,
yeah.
Plus,
do the math on the minus 250, minus 200 phase, right? I mean, when you lose one game, you're basically losing 2 units. So when we go 6 for 10. At, let's say, just even money for simple math, right? You're going to lose 4 games. You're going to lose 4 units. You won 6 games, so you profited 2. Now do the math on if we went 6 and 4 on minus 200 faves. You lost money, right?
Yeah.
You lost 800 or 8 units on the 4 minus 200 faves, and then you only gobbled up, 6 units on the 6 unit or the 6 winners, excuse me.
Yeah.
So you're still negative. You're down 2 games, even though you hit 60%.
Yeah, and that's what you'll see a lot of guys will say. I have a 60 to 70% win rate, but a lot of those guys are going out minus 300s, minus 400s, even just to like make that win rate look better. When in reality, the thing that matters most is the profitability and the amount of money that you're actually making rather than the win percentage.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I'm sure when, your clients, reach out to you, right? Would you prefer the question of how profitable are you, or would you prefer the question of how, what's your win rate looking like?
Yeah, definitely profitability. That's
right.
What matters at the end of the day.
Exactly. I mean, everybody knows,
I mean, look, winning a bet is a great feeling, but making money is a much better feeling.
Exactly. And that's why we do this. We're not out here to, to boost up, the checks over X's, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, we got families to feed, we got our, bills to pay, and checks and X's are not going to pay my fucking bills.
Yep.
Profit is.
Yeah, and you and I are two of the only people that I know of doing this that actually support their family full time, doing what we're doing, legitimately as well. So
Right.
I think there's something to say for that too. And we got a lot of good info we want to give to you guys. We could talk about the guys who give out. The guys you want to stay away from are the guys that are giving out the 100-unit super max, can't lose, guaranteed. Drop your rent on it, drop your car on it, won't lose. Those guys are bad news and definitely big red flags when you see those 100-unit max whale plays.
I mean, let's just be serious here. You don't have to be the sharpest tool in the shed to know that if you're going to go invest something, you're not going to dump all your eggs in one basket, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, take a look at the stock market. You don't just go, if you got 5,000, you want to go play around in the stock market. You ain't going to just go all roll 5,000 into Tesla, right?
Yeah.
You're going to diversify your portfolio.
Yeah.
Same thing in sports betting,
You
right?
ever seen that episode of South Park where you watch South Park?
Yeah.
You seen that episode where they're at the Indian casino and they're trying to save the town. They're like, all right, we got to put all of our $1,000 on 31 black, and they hit it and they get all the money that they need. And they put 10,000 on 31 black, got 350K back, and they're all celebrating. They're like, we got exactly what we needed, cool. And then they got greedy, just like a lot of you guys will if you sports bet. They said, well, if we put 350K on the next spin, we could win 12.5 million, and we're all going to be super rich and save the town.
Yeah.
Of course they lose, yeah. So being greedy, being emotional with sports betting is something that
Got to take that out.
we got it. Yeah, we tell people all the time, you got to take it out. Don't bet with your heart, bet with your head.
Yeah. And going off that too, it's okay to have a losing day, right? Like Michael said before, we do this for a living. We take care of our families based on, the income that we make sports betting. But don't think for a second that him or I won't sit here and tell you that we haven't gotten whacked before, right, in a day. I mean, we've had,
it can be brutal at
right,
times.
I mean,
nobody likes to lose.
right. I mean, every professional in the world will tell you that they've had a reverse clean sweep, multiple times throughout their career. It happens, right?
Yeah.
So being able to swallow that pride and accept the losing day and not go back to chasing your losses on games that you didn't research, the later games, the 10 o'clocks or 11 o'clocks or whatever, to try and make your money back, to get back to even. That's a horrible fucking idea.
Yeah.
Just reset the brain, go to bed, brush it off, and come back, with a fresh mind and attack a new day, right? And kind of relates to that don't getting greedy thing. Just don't go chasing your losses either.
Yeah. And it's also good to be in contact with some people that practice these same kind of sports betting habits as you, because even though we know this, it's like breathing to us, there's still times where I'll have a reverse clean sweep. I'll be like, yo, B3, bro, how do you overcome this shit, man? This is rough. And, by the end of the week, I'll actually be up in units, and he'll just tell me, clear your mind, let it go.
Go play sports, go shoot hoops, go for a run, right? Just whatever you could do to kind of distance yourself from sports is the better. And most people think the opposite of let me go back and research for another 3 hours. But in reality, your wheels are turning so much that you're not focused and you're not looking at the right things because you're so jaded.
They got you right where they want you.
Right, exactly. That's exactly what they're doing. Yeah, come bet more.
Yeah.
Why do you think when you go to Vegas and you peel off 10K, they give you a free 3 or 4 day stay?
Mm-hmm.
The longer you keep coming back, the more you keep betting, the more opportunity you have to lose, right?
Yeah.
They, and same thing, or when you win, they gonna offer you that free stay again, because why? Chances are you come back, you're gonna keep betting, they're gonna get their money back from you.
Yeah.
So just being able to control those emotions and distance yourself from sports, kind of separates us from the rest of the competition, right?
Yeah.
So it's one thing to keep in mind, whether you're attacking it by attacking sports betting by yourself or you're using a handicapper, don't go with somebody that's, chasing their losses, or like Michael said before, they're 100-star, all in, put your mortgage on it, max bet, can't lose play, right? chances are those guys are losing sports bettors, and they need your money just to cover their losses, so they can go ahead and rebet their Super Mega Max Whale 100-star that's not going to lose.
Yeah.
And that's horrible.
For me personally, my goal is like for my clients to never have to make another deposit again. Like if you're starting with a $500 to $1,000 bankroll, I want them to simply build that. Even if it builds slowly. The bad habit of gambling comes when you're just constantly running out of money and making another deposit, and you're just chasing that feeling of winning. When the best thing to do in reality is just build it slow and steady. Like Rome wasn't built in a day.
So what advice would you give, a new guy that's joining your team that, is following your unit structure, but obviously, is a smaller guy and looking to make a long-term investment in you and wants to keep scaling his bankroll? How would you kind of explain to them to do that over time, with that, still keeping the same percentage, but up, eventually your unit size is going to get bigger as your bankroll grows.
Yeah,
so how would you advise, people to not get carried away, but also at the same time have a steady pace of growing your bankroll?
Yeah, I think...
Because there's a fine line between and...
Of course. Of course, yeah, I totally gotcha. I keep it very simple. With people. The idea of a unit system is... It feels genius once you first realize what it is. And you realize, wow, I can actually make money like this. But it's so simple, guys. And I tell people, okay, let's say you have $1,000. You would bet anywhere from $10 to $20 per unit, 1 to 2% per game. At the end of the month, let's say you're up to $1,200. Okay, now you can adjust your unit size. Now you're betting a little more per game. I tell them stay away from parlays, stay away from live bets. Simply bet the plays that we give out. And if we have a losing day, we have a losing day. But at the end of the week, you're up 9 times out of 10. So
right.
I keep it pretty simple.
Speaking of that, betting, what you just said out, do you often run into clients that come back to you after you had a winning week and are disappointed in your product, and then throughout the conversation you uncover that they're still betting their own games for the same amount or more than what the picks that you're providing them?
There's so many times I'll message a new client like it's their first day and we have a 3-0 sweep, and I'll be like, hey dude, great start, we had a 3-0 sweep, and he's like, man, I added Hawks money line, and they killed my parlay, bro. It's all their fault. I'm like, no, dude, it's your fault because you didn't. First of all, I always tell everybody the same exact thing. Straight bet them. Don't parlay it. Follow the system we advise. I always get that out of the way first. Because,
and if you're gonna parlay for fun with house money or for small, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Dude, I love a parlay. Every bettor loves a parlay. It's like, risk a little to win a lot.
Yeah, you see a little risk and a big return. But I think that's a big problem for a lot of new sports bettors, or some people that are just getting into it, a year or two, whatever. Mm-hmm. They're all trying to get rich overnight.
Exactly, and it's not gonna happen like that.
And that's why Vegas makes so much money off the parlays, because you can put $100 on string out a 4-team, and the return's gonna be 600. People like that over risking 110 to win 100. You'd rather risk 100 to make 6.
Right. And think about it, guys. If you're Vegas, you want to make as much money off of people as you possibly can, and that's why you see parlays and super boost parlays advertised everywhere. Everywhere. It's not by accident, guys. It's completely intentional, and you guys fall for it. And that's why people like us are here to steer you right, and hopefully you can beat Vegas every year, month after month, like we do. And at least most months, at the end of the year, we're always profitable. So that's the way to do it, man. But I'm excited about helping you guys out. I'm excited about opening day today.
Yeah. I mean, hey, the day is finally here. Me, baseball is, one of my favorite sport. Played it all my life growing up. Yep. It was one of the first leagues I started capping, MLB and college football. So. Did
you play travel ball?
Yeah.
Nice. Any high school?
Yeah, I played on the high school league in the spring. Played on my travel team simultaneously in the spring, and then did summer league for my school and the travel team, and then the travel team in the fall as well.
You play second base?
Shortstop.
Okay. I knew it was one of them.
Pitcher and shortstop.
Nice.
Yeah, for my high school, I was pitcher and shortstop. Backwards. For my travel team, I was pitcher and shortstop. But my high school, I actually went right up the middle. So I used to play, you know, whatever school that week, and you had a 3-game series, right? So I actually started out as the ace. Then the second game, the shortstop, our main shortstop, was the second pitcher, so I'd go take over shortstop. Then the third game of the series, our center fielder was the third string pitcher. So when he pitched, I'd go to center field.
Gotcha.
So I actually just went right up the middle in high school. But we had some kid that went D1 on our travel team that locked down center field.
Nice.
And they had a decent shortstop, but I had a better arm than him, so he actually moved over to second, and I replaced him at shortstop on the travel team.
Yeah. Dude, it's funny. I always had a cannon from center. I played center field and shortstop as well, funny enough. My coach would always be like, you got a cannon, you should be a pitcher.
You got the big wingspan there, big guy.
Yeah, the big monkey arms, for sure.
Get that big pendulum motion coming through.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I played quarterback as well, so I was always trying to put the ball right in the right spot. When I was younger, I didn't understand that concept in pitching, so I would literally throw it perfectly down the middle every time.
Instead of trying to
and I would just get rocked, dude. Like, yeah, it was bad. I was not a good pitcher. Maybe you could blame the coaches a little bit.
Yeah, see,
but like, dude, yeah, I could put it in the right spot.
I had the accuracy. I didn't have so much speed. I had a strong arm, but I only topped out at 83. So when I got to my travel team, you know, there was kids throwing 90, 89, 88 on average, right? So the coach was kind of like, you're probably not going to pitch much, but you're a great shortstop defensively.
You'd be a good reliever, though, with that off speed.
That's what he used me for.
Yeah.
But in my high school team, you know, I went to a smaller school, so you kind of had a lack of pitchers. So basically anybody that could throw strikes got to throw.
Yeah.
And I had, you know, I threw a fastball, curveball, and a slider. So I
just don't walk really 6 guys in a row.
And I didn't, you know, I averaged 1 walk a game or per 7, you know.
What's that whip? What was your whip?
Oh, fuck, I can't remember, dude. It was so long ago.
Well, who's your favorite pitcher to bet on in the MLB? Like, who's your guy when they're pitching?
Yeah. So speaking about
that's
pitching,
my guy.
Yeah. So my guy for me has been Logan Gilbert on the Seattle Mariners.
He's legit, dude.
Yeah. My one of my best friend Miles, who I run my company with, B3 Bets. He's very good at scouting out the up-and-coming talent. And he actually put me onto him, you know, when he was coming into the bigs. And he had, you know, before he even stepped foot on the mound, he said, you know, keep an eye on this kid, I'm telling you, tabletop slider, he's going to be something. Yeah. And, you know, the Mariners are always shit, so they're always plus money dogs. And we just started taking, you know, Logan, you know, and sure, obviously
before last
sure
year,
the spot was
before
good.
last year, they were plus money dogs. Last year,
Yeah.
Now they're a little bit of a
now they're
kind of
team. Yeah. Sometimes, you know, you don't catch them in as many.
Still going to be really good,
spots.
but less value this year coming up for sure.
But when he first came in, you know, they had that terrible season. You know, and he was just lighting it up. 2 years ago, he did great. We actually had the Mariners in the over 74.5 wins for 20K that year, and he was a big part of that success.
Yeah.
You know, without him, we would have never eclipsed that. I mean, it was like every time he stepped foot on the mound, you know, he was winning games. Yeah. And dude, I was riding him again last year. I mean, the value wasn't as good because the Mariners were a little bit better, but I mean,
you still get him as a short fade or a slight dog.
But you know, it's like 8 out of 10 times he stepped on the mound, he was winning games for him.
It's okay
or he
to
was
bet
taking
favorites.
the first 5.
It's okay to bet slight favorites sometimes.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Like we always talk about, you know, there's more value in underdogs, but slight favorites, I mean, minus 120, minus 130, even minus 140 sometimes. You feel really good about it.
That's totally okay. And it just, and sure, don't get me wrong. I mean, there is the occasional minus 160, right? I'm not saying don't bet that, but that shouldn't be the first thing that you're looking for, right? You should try to exploit the dogs and the short phase with the good value or plus money value first, you know, and then if you really need to take something, or if you really think a minus 150 fave is a lock, you know, sure, go ahead and take it. Yeah. But be right more than you're wrong on those.
Yeah, pick your spots wisely.
Right, exactly. Perfect, well said. Pick your spots wisely on that.
Yeah.
Perfectly put.
Who's that kid from the Brewers coming up, the pitcher, younger guy? All kinds of nasty stuff. You know who I'm talking about? He pitched a little bit last year, kind of got beat up. I'd find the kid. I mean, you know, obviously the 2 studs, Woodruff and Corbin Burns, but I mean, Corbin's not that. Well, not Corbin though.
Not that old.
It's a new kid. He wears glasses.
Oh, I know what he looks like. I forgot his name.
When I saw that kid coming up pitching, I'll find his name and we'll plug that in later. But
we'll drop that here.
yeah, when I saw that kid pitching, like, man, the potential is filthy. But then you see him go out and he'll get blasted, dude. So I think it's just that inexperience.
Sometimes it's just finding their way. I mean,
but I think he's going to be a really good pitcher in the future.
Yeah, if they got good stuff. I mean, and that was one thing we liked about Logan was, he's got a tabletop slider. He's able to paint the corners, right? Doesn't throw many, leave a lot of meatballs or hangers right down the plate. So if you see a guy like that with raw talent, and their first 2 years are only okay or somewhat below par.
Yeah.
It could just be a minor mental adjustment and coaching and just experience, right? I mean, again, going to keep using Logan Gilbert because he's a perfect example of that. You watch him develop into an elite level pitcher and, a Cy Young candidate last year. And he didn't add anything to his arsenal. He didn't start throwing harder. It was just that he grew mentally as a professional ball player, and a lot, and just like sports betting, a lot of that, these guys take a mental wear and tear, the same way we do when we go through losses. Imagine going out there and getting fucking killed for 7 runs, like 2 games in a row. That totally brings
You're going to be thinking about that for the next week or two.
Exactly. So being able to overcome that,
Yeah.
Is growing as a professional ball player. And again, like I said, it's not like he started throwing 5 miles per hour faster or his curveball started dropping 6 more inches, right?
Yeah.
He just developed mentally as a player.
But on the opposite end of that, let's talk about when guys get hot. What do you really look for when guys get hot? Yeah, keep betting it right.
MLB is that sport. Like football is flip flop. You take a look at most teams, right?
Matchup,
right?
Really.
And majority of the league finishes right around 500, right?
Mm-hmm.
Give or take. Baseball, everybody has this mindset that the Twins have won 10 games in a row. Let's start fading them because law of averages says they got to lose. That's totally false in baseball. Those teams will go keep winning, man. They'll win 16, 17, 18
And they'll
games.
just find a way. It'll be like, it's magical when they're on those streaks. And it doesn't make any sense.
And sure, eventually, yes, they will have to lose. But
you don't
ride it until the wheels fall off. Don't start to try to fade it, because you think they're going to lose. No, they're fucking red hot. They're playing good ball.
The quote I love about this topic. So a wise man once said, there's only 2 things due in life. Pregnant women and your bills. Don't bet against teams just because they're due for a loss.
Right. 100% true, man.
I love that quote.
Yeah, no, that applies perfectly.
And you want to think, naturally, you want to think, well, what are the odds they're going to keep this thing going? Baseball, dude, they're pretty good.
It's good, man. If teams are in a groove, they are in a groove.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same way, with batters and, getting on hot streaks batting-wise, or vice versa, cold streaks, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, Mike Trout, arguably one of, the best player in the MLB, arguably.
Yeah.
But you saw him go through, like a 22-game no-hit streak last year? If you would offer me to bet on Mike Trout having a 22-game, being hitless for 22 games, I probably wouldn't take that bet.
Yeah.
But it happens.
Yeah, it happens. The inexplainable happens in sports every single day. Unexplainable.
Yep.
So,
that's and brings us right back to kind of managing your bankroll and not putting all your eggs in one basket. Because of that, you can have the right side and some fluke shit happens and you end up losing.
So give out to the people one team you're really going to be keeping your eye on this year. Maybe a future bet that you like.
Yeah, sure. So my biggest future for this year, my $10,000 future is actually going to be on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Over 76.5 wins.
Kind of looks like we're in Arizona.
Yeah, Florida.
Yeah.
You got the heat and the palm trees.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, so, what I was really looking for in this year's future, obviously, because we have the new rule changes of, the banning the overshift, I honed in on, well, first and foremost, I always hone in on teams that have a lot of young talent. Mm-hmm. Because Vegas hasn't really adjusted the market for them yet because they haven't really proven themselves. So it's
I gotta say, I love Corbin Carroll.
Yes.
That kid, he's legit.
Yeah.
And he's lightning fast.
Yeah. And you like the Pirates jersey? I mean, that kid O'Neal Cruz.
O'Neal
another
Cruz.
fucking stud. But so
O'Neal, baby.
looking for teams that have that young talent that, again, kind of what we were just talking about, the skill set is there. They just haven't broken out yet. They haven't developed, mentally as a professional player yet. And the Diamondbacks, started to show life of that at the end of last season, right?
Yeah.
They started to compile wins. They got red hot at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're going to carry that momentum into this year. Plus, they also got that new coach, JJ, who was the bench coach for the Rays.
Yep.
And he's a very aggressive guy in the sense that he likes to send guys, a lot on steals. Now, if you look at the stats, the Diamondbacks were within the top 10. I think they were 6th in stolen bases last year and 7th in attempts. So now you add a manager that is heavy,
He's telling him go.
on an aggressive
all the
side of
time.
things. You got to anticipate they're going to be higher up on the steal category. They got the guys to do it. There's going to be more hit and runs. Now you don't have the overshift in there anymore. That all leads to more runs. And to me, that was enough to where I believe that the D-backs will, overcome the 76.5 wins because of those reasons. I think, more runs are going to lead to more wins. Like I said, they started to develop, together as a team, that young talent a little bit more mentally towards the end of last season.
Mm-hmm.
I think they projected that into this year, and I actually think they'll sail right over the 76.5 wins and fall somewhere in the mid-80s.
Absolutely. And I love what you talked about there, because we're not saying just blindly bet underdogs. We're not telling you to go bet the Oakland Athletics.
Right.
But
You
these
gotta pick your
teams,
spots.
there's teams in every sport that they have that young talent. They're still undervalued. They're still on the come up, and those are the teams you get the most value out of.
Yep.
So,
Because, like I said before, Vegas just, rightfully so, they just haven't proven themselves. There's still a question mark next to them,
Yeah.
right? But guys like us that,
the Sharks.
the Sharks, we're looking at this stuff, and that's our job is to, if you look up the definition of handicapping, it's to digest a, series of data to formulate an outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what we're doing, what I did here with this future, right? I'm predicting that these guys are going to come together as a team and play better because of all the facts that I just listed. So, sure, a couple big injuries to some key players will obviously cook that bet, and, I'll be dead instantly if they're, season-long injuries. But if everybody stays healthy, or mostly everybody stays healthy, or if the
can't predict injuries.
right, or shorter injuries, like I said, I see no reason why it's not going to clear. What about you? What did you have in mind for the season? Any? I know you like your player props and stuff like that, but did you have any teams or any key guys that you were looking at for the season?
Dude, I hate to be this guy, but I was really looking at the Diamondbacks myself.
Were you?
Yeah, I was. We're doing some traveling out to Arizona too, so I've been heavily looking into the Diamondbacks, wanting to go to those games, and like you said, they just have so much up and coming talent. I do think the Pirates are going to win a lot of games as underdogs this year for sure as well. That's why I got the jersey on.
Same kind of situation.
Same situation. Yep.
What about for basketball? I know you're big into basketball more so than I am, and obviously you got playoffs coming up and
Dude,
NBA finals.
I think the Celtics are a huge fade.
What are you kind of looking at there?
Celtics are a huge fade. I've kind of been. You've been seeing it all season. They've been like minus 600 favorites and just lose outright so many times. They'll be double-digit favorites, lose the game outright. And that right there just tells me that's a team that's not going to go far in the playoffs, because as opposed to a team like the Bucks, they take every game serious. They're kind of true professionals about it. Celtics,
they do. I feel like they
do. They just wax everybody,
to lose.
Dude. I mean, even
they can
when
be playing somebody terrible and just insist on blowing them out.
Yeah, and if you can get the Bucks at like a short line just because Giannis or Drew Holiday's out or Chris Middleton's out, they're deep, dude. Like, they have guys, and that franchise is just such a well-run machine, similar to the Warriors.
Coaching.
I mean, even better coaching than the Warriors, if you ask me. Like, they're just deeper. They have more veteran talent off the bench. They have guys like Joe Ingles, Bobby Portis, guys that can just step in those roles and really show out when their time has come. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning into the show. Make sure you give us a follow at AstroLockz on Instagram. You can give us a follow on Twitter at AstroLockz Daily. Make sure you follow Kyle and his company at B3_bets. Any final thoughts from you, Kyle?
No, man, I appreciate you having me on the show today. It was a pleasure, buddy.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, sir.